All right, so our first topic for graphing is just looking at points. But before we do that, we even got to talk about like what is a graph. So graphs get used a lot to show information visually, like with pictures and not necessarily looking and crunching a bunch of numbers, which I like sometimes because sometimes if you're like me, sometimes a picture does a better job of explaining, um, you know, what exactly is going on than trying to look at a bunch of numbers. So we have graphs for that. And one of the things that we can use graphs for is to put points of information onto the graph so we can kind of see what's going on. So we'll start pretty easy just by going over the parts of a graph and how we plot points. So first thing I want to do is look at this X down here. This whole line is called the x-axis. It tells you how far a point should be going across a graph. So starting at 0, obviously, see how we get bigger from 1 to 2 and so on and so forth. This graph stops at 10, but it can go on for however. You can also look at how each box on the graph is worth 1 unit, right? 0 to 1, 1 to 2, and so on and so forth. So that is how we look at the x-axis of our graph. The y-axis is the line that goes up and down. Right now, it just goes from 0 to 10, but we'll talk about how that changes later on. So again, the y tells you the distance up. It's also measured in units here, right? 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and so on. So when we are looking at our points up here where they tell us, hey, plot this point on the graph, we have two numbers there and they're in order. And the order matters kind of a lot. So when we look at our points, I'm sorry for my terrible parentheses here. Our first point is the x point in blue. So our first point is 2, meaning that our point will go 2 across. And then when we look, the second point represents our y. So we have 6 as our y. So when we go to put this point on our graph, we know that we're going, x is 2, so we're going 1, 2 across and up 6, all the way up to